Okay, good morning. We start our next lecture lesson today, lecture number 6. Now I show my screen with distance course on the platform of Moodle. It is our presentation to our today lecture by our discipline, Operational Logistic Management in Supply Chains. So our plan for today to discuss two big questions. It is classification of carriers and intermediary of transport services. In the first question, we need to discuss such parameters as characteristics of carriers by types of transport, classification of transport service provider, classification of carrier by legal status, and other questions by this topic. So, if we discuss first correlation, we start with characteristics of carrier by types of transport. It is important to know these characteristics because we could understand which types of something is and how we could use in our work, transport work, warehouses works, logistics works, and other types. So the analysis revealed the most important characteristics of each type of transport, including the ratio of fixed and variable costs. If we talk about railways, we have such parameters as high fixed cost for rolling stock terminals, rail tracks, etc. Low level of variable costs because we have these parameters for a long part of time, so we need to understand what is better. About motor transport, low fixed cost highway already built and supported by public funds, variable cost, fuel, maintenance, etc., at an average level. So it is such a interesting short characteristics about different type of transport. About water transport, it is river and sea transport. Fixed cost vessels and equipment are at an average level. Low variable cost one-time transportation of large tonnage is possible. It is the positive characteristics because we could to transportation a big part of goods. But sometimes when we have a little part of goods, it is not good for us, yes, and we need to think about motor transport maybe or something else. Pipelines, the largest fixed cost, it is land, construction, pumping station, control and management system, but the lowest level of variable cost, labor costs are extremely small because we have a little part of people for operational work with the system, a big part of money we need to construction it to construction special control system, management system, but after it is very simple and a very small cost for operational work. Air transport, low level of fixed cost. It is aircraft, loading and unloading equipment, containers, but high variable cost. It is fuel, wage, maintenance, etc. So the types of transport are compared according to speed, availability, reliability, carrying capacity, and frequency of use. Speed is determined by the time it takes to travel a certain distance. Air transport is the fastest of all. So if you need to transport some very fast and, for example, such types of goods as flowers or very rich goods, for example, it could be some jewelries and some techniques that change price for this techniques, for example, iPhone or other equipment. It could be possible and could be one of the best way for transportation, air transport. Accessibility is the ability to transport to connect any two geographical points. Motor transport is the most accessible, as trucks can pick up cargo directly at the point of departure and deliver indirectly to the destination. So we have such positive and sometimes negative characteristics for different types of transport. It is normal and depend from a lot of factors. So we need to understand what is better for us in the individual situation. The reliability indicator reflects potential deviation from expected or established delivery schedule. Since pipelines work around the clock and are not afraid of weather or congestion, they are the most reliable form of transport. Carrying capacity characterizes the ability to transport goods of any weight and value. According to this theater, the highest rating belong about transport. Frequency in the number of transportation according to the traffic schedule. Since the pipelines work in continuous mode, they are also the first here. World-class cargo vehicles take first or second place in all characteristics except for carrying capacity. So we understand that we need to find all types of transport which is possible on this part of way and think what is better for our goods, for our situation and from it depend from questions of our company, what we need, fast delivery, for example, cheap delivery, or something else, or optimized all these parameters, for example. So, classification of transport service providers. Transport services are offered by numerous carriers representing different types of transport. In the past, state regulatory bodies in the USA and Western European countries allowed each transport service provider to work in only one mode of transport. This restriction was aimed at encouraging competition between modes of transport and preventing the monopolization seen at the dawn of the railway area. As a result of the walkout, this restriction was removed so that carriage had the opportunity to establish mixed form of transportation, which allow more efficiently and economically to safety consumer requires. In mixed transportation, when we think about it, several types of transport are combined at once, which allows you to take advantage of each of them and provides integrated transport services with the lowest overall cost. The widespread development of mixed transportation came in the 1950s when counter trailer appeared, a kind of synthetic of rail and road transport. This form of transportation is gaining more and more popularity mainly due to its efficiency and economy. So we have such a connection work, of different types of transport and it could be and cheaper and faster. So we need to think about it and how we could to connect it. So, coordinated or mixed transportation can technically cover all major modes of transport. The descriptive terms piggyback, fisherback, train ship, air truck, and have become commonplace in English language transportation jargon because we used, for example, in Ukrainian language, in articles and books, for example, delivery just in time, because we could translate it, but sometimes we used it in English and something else. So we have this special transportation systems lectures, yes, jargon. The most well-known and widespread form of mixed transportation is a trailer or container on a flat railway platform. In international practice, this form of contrailer transportation is designed to respectively tows from trailer on a flat car or, for example, COFC from container on a flat car, for example. So we could find this abbreviation and need to know what it means, and it is interesting and useful. Ukraine's priority task is to realize its advantageous geographic position and the transit potential of the transport system in a land bridge between Europe and Asia. Since 2003, the combined train Viking, for example, has been running in Ukraine in the direction. So we have this marshruts. It was in Ilichivsk, Dangerous, the Republic of Litva, in the direction of Ukraine, Poland, and further on the country of Western Europe. The combined transport train Yaroslavl to Kiev Slavkov road has been put into operation, and the combined train was in Azerot, but now we couldn't use it because the situation. The widespread combination of road and rail transport allows you to combine the cheapness of rail transport over long distance with the flexibility of road transport on short roads. When transported containerized cargo from countries of the Pacific Basin to Europe, they use the continental bridge. It is hem water, land water, which involves water and rail transport. Water, it means sea transport. Instead of making the long journey, crossing the entire ocean space, ships from Pacific region deliver goods to the U.S. West Coast. When they are transshipped to rail, delivery to East Coast port, and reloading onto ships for transport to Europe. At the same time, the said single tariff is lower than the sum of transport costs on each individual segment road. So we could use the connection of different types of transport for cheaper journey of our goods, cheaper delivery. So we need to think about it also when we choose type of transport for delivery our cargo. If we think about classification of carriers by legal status, it is another parameters for classification. So, in addition now to the classification of transport by type on the basis of technical characteristics, a division by legal status by type of licensing is also adopted. Based on the type of licensing, four categories of cargo are distributed. It is public, it is contract, private, and preferential. The categories are found in all modes of transport. So, for example, public carriers. Public carriers form the basis of the public transport system. Public carriers are obliged to provide transport service in equal, non-discriminatory prices for all. If we talk about contract carriers provide transport services for individual customers. Also, a carriers must also obtain a license. It is less bound in its action than a public carrier. The basis of the contract is an agreement between of carriers and sender of the car on the provision of central transport services for an agreed fee. The agreement, for example, may provide for the transportation of one or more cargoes within a certain period of time. So we have such different options. If we talk about private carriers, we think that a group of private carriers is formed by companies that independently transport their own cargo. The main difference between private carriers and carriers working for her is that for the former, transportation is a secondary and auxiliary type of activity. If we talk about preferential carriers, in full accordance with the name, preferential carriers are exempt from economic regulation. Traditionally, concessions have been granted to carriers of certain goods or to choose service certain markets. Usually, carriers of unprocessed agricultural products and mineral raw materials use benefits. In the early 1980s, in Ukraine, since the mid 1990s, the number of private carriers increased dramatically. Many firms have taken advantage of the legalization of regulatory norms of established direct control over all logistics operations related to their core business. But as a result of generations, the benefit from operation of one's own vehicles has significantly decreased. As a result, many firms have downsized their transportation operations to focus management and other resources on their core business. So, competition has focused many to turn to the services of specialized movement for hire, who have skills and experience in organizing and planning the transportation process. So yes, we really have such types and such situation. If you talk about private carriers, have the greatest flexibility. However, in essence, use of the company's own transport can lead to considerable losses. Favorable and contract carriers follow private carriers in terms of operational flexibility. The contract carriers is only relatively free in drawing in traffic schedule, choosing routes, stops, and delivery times. So it is different types, and we also could use these opportunities and positive and negative characteristics of everyone by the legal status. If we talk about intermediary of transport services, it is a special group of transport service provider is formed by intermediaries who, as a rule, don't own their own means of transport and don't conduct independent cargo transportation operations, but organize the transportation process by involving other companies. Sometimes a lot of companies need such type of service. A typical broker collects order from small shippers and then buys transportation service to deliver the goods to their destination. Usually, the intermediary offers the senders of cargo lower tariff than they would have to pay to public carriers for cargo of the same weight and value. The middleman's profit in the difference between the rate changed to shippers and the price he pays carriers for their services. The most common types of intermediaries are freight forwarders and brokers. The work of freight forwarders is to collect small shipments from different senders into one large bus and then send it via a common carriers by air or ground. And the destination, the freight forwarding again divides the delivered consignment into parts resolved from different consignors. So sometimes it is really could be possible and good activity, good services because if we couldn't have time, for example, in our company, a little part of goods and it is not possible to find some type of transport, we could use this consideration of different parts from different customers and use such a type of service. Why not? Yes, if it is possible. His duties may also include delivery of goods to final recipients. It is also need to organize, need to find type of transport. It is as usual, it is motor transport, but sometimes if you could some trucks, for example, for these companies, we could use railway transport and maybe a water transport, but it is very not very often happened. The main advantage of the forwarding services is that small shipment reach the recipient faster and cheaper. Thanks to consolidation, that if each shipper deal directly with a public carriers. This shows saving due to the scale of transportation. Forwarders assume full responsibility for the transportation and safekeeping of cargo. Brokers are intermediaries who coordinate it and the organization of transportation in the interest of shippers, consignors, and carriers. Today, brokers provide more diverse services, find suitable transportation options, agree on prices and terms of payment, prepare payment and transportation documents, control the passage of cargo. So we need to use all these opportunities and propose if, for example, we have transport companies, we could propose these services and sometimes it could be very good idea for a lot of company who which want to deliver their customer and to understand how much it costs if they deliver, for example, this little part of cargo, or maybe they could work and consolidate it in future in other part of cargo and deliver it to the recipients, for example, in the point of delivery, in the end of this delivery, and from this point, delivery to final recipients. For example, when we could divide it, big part of cargo divided and delivery it to the other companies and other parameters. So we discuss these two questions in the main information, and in the second part of lecture we discuss it, what you know about it and what you think about different this type of classification. And as information, I saved these records by my YouTube channel, and other students who couldn't connect it to us today could look at later by this schedule from our distance course, and I saved in my Instagram also in actual information, and you could find these lecture materials here. Okay, I stopped sharing my screen now and stop records.